All right. Whew. It has been a bit of a rough day with technical difficulties. But thank you. Thank you guys for sticking it out with us. Whew. We are in round 4. This is the last round of Swiss. And let's see. We've got Carl Shotsberger and Ethan Simpson coming up. They are both 2-1. So that makes this a win and in match. Let's see, who is it? Undefeateds. So we saw Justin Burns undefeated and Leonard Kraft, Trey, aka the Wobblefett, is also the other undefeated at this midseason. So we've got a win and in here between Carl Shotsberger, who just got top 4 at Memphis Regionals recently, and Ethan Simpson. I've been told that Carl of the Kansas City area, because of his performance at Memphis, is actually the CP leader of the Kansas City area. I believe, if I've got my numbers, facts, and figures correct, he's not the CP leader at this particular midseason. That title, I believe, goes to Justin Burns, but he is not considered a Kansas City local. He is invading. All right, so let's jump into this. I've got my screenshot of the team so that I can keep track of things. We have Carl, aka Crawl, here on the left. He is on Cart. And then on the right, we have Ethan PacoTaco Simpson. So Carl's got himself an Yveltal, a Bisharp, pulling out the double dark typing. We have a Groudon, an Arcanine, boosting them fire types. And then we've got a Cresselia and a Tapu Koko. And then over on Ethan's side, we have Crobat, a strong and steady performer in formats like this. We have Kartana, Ludicolo, Solgaleo, Tapu Koko, and an additional Yveltal. I know that Ethan is very much a fan of Yveltal. He has been since 2016. Watching him play with Yveltal is actually usually pretty fun to watch. I have played him, just going back to like 2016, I remember we played in a top cut, and he had, what was it, Don Y, and I had Zern Ogre, and just watching Ethan maneuver around, he's very comfortable playing with Yveltal, knows his way around the Pokemon pretty well. So just recapping that, Ethan did actually win that matchup against me back in 2016, but we are jumping into this. We have, what is that stance from? I don't know enough about in-game stuff. I can't tell you about the stances, but there you go. Ethan, he's got a cute top on, and a very pretty hat. So we've got Carl over here, and Ethan getting ready to go. Solgaleo and Crobat versus Yveltal and Tapu Koko. This could actually be a very difficult position for Crobat to try and stick around. It should be able to get off at least a Tailwind. And then Solgaleo out here, maybe out here to try and set up a Trick Room. This Crobat could go as far as like seeing this Yveltal trying to set up a Tailwind, something like that. There's a lot of trickery that could be going on here. And so there's a lot of decisions that need to be made. Tapu Koko trying to decide whether it wants to try and go after this Crobat, or maybe Volt Switch out into something a little bit slower so that it can try and survive maybe a Trick Room type of position. This Yveltal with 222 HP looks decently bulky. And Yveltal obviously boosting these Dark type moves with Dark Aura. Just for anybody that didn't know what Yveltal did if you weren't around in, let's say, 2016. So the other problem with Solgaleo being a Psychic type is that it has to worry about Yveltal. So we see the Protect there. Ethan trying to make sure that it's going to be protected at least this turn. Crobat going for the Tailwind here. And Tapu Koko bringing out another physical Tapu Koko today. And Wild Charge going to go ahead and clear out the rest of the HP on that Crobat. So Ethan clears Tailwind, but at a cost, because that Crobat is no longer going to be available to help out. And so Ethan has to find some other way to try and take out this Yveltal so that Solgaleo can at least try and get some damage going. And at this point, it looks like Kartana is the way that Ethan wants to deal with this. So at this point, we've seen his one of his restricted Pokemon was Solgaleo and then Kartana, so that might mean that he's left Tapu Koko just in the party, not to come along. Yveltal out here, Tapu Koko only taking recoil damage thanks to Wild Charge, as we saw with the Tailwind, the only move that Ethan took outside of Protect. Protect not being a damage-dealing move. So again, Ethan has essentially, it looks like, lost most of his speed control here. And then Kartana not being very special defensive bulk, he has to be a little bit worried. We did see the knockoff from Yveltal. I don't know. It looks like Ethan is in a pretty decent position, especially now that Yveltal is going to go ahead and switch out. We do have Cresselia from Carl coming out here. It looks like we've got an Electric Steed coming in. Cresselia is going to boost its defense there. And a Smart Strike coming straight into that Cresselia. Not doing a whole lot of damage, but Sunsteel Strike. A fun animation out of Solgaleo coming in here and hopefully doing a good chunk of damage, but with that boosted defense on Cresselia doing less than half with 2 attacks from 2 pretty physical attackers. And it looks like Carl's going to go ahead and switch out Tapu Koko here with a nice little U-turn. Again, we've seen 2 physical Tapu Kokos, both of them with Wild Charge and the U-turn. And now we've got Groudon coming out here. Going to bring out the Sun. We've got the Electric Terrain and Sun out and about. Cresselia could still potentially try and set up a Trick Room here, with Sunsteel Strike being the stab move from Solgaleo doing, I mean, again, under half from 2 pretty decent physical attackers. And now Ethan has to worry quite a bit about this Kartana with any fire moves coming out of Groudon. And then, you know, he could just go for Precipice Blades and do super effective damage against Solgaleo. There have been quite a few Solgaleos running around with weakness policy. So if he's got the ability to take maybe a nice little hit there, Groudon not taking full damage from that Leaf Blade. Man, that's Wait. Did I read that right? Was that Citrus Berry? Fire Punch going straight into Kartana. Ethan not picking up the KO with that Leaf Blade, proccing a Citrus Berry, and Trick Room coming out here now for Cresselia. I have to process that for a minute. So he saw the Leaf Blade, and because of Groudon's nice, hefty defensive bulk, not quite able to pick up the KO there. But then Groudon's got a Citrus Berry. In the era of Pinch Berries, we're still seeing a Citrus Berry come out here. Man, that is something. Carl's got something up his sleeve, wanting to make sure. I think he's got something calced there where he's taking damage at about half. Maybe it's something like an Origin Pulse in the Sun. I can't really say for sure. I doubt it, but man, that's pretty incredible. Having a Citrus Berry in this sort of era. Groudon's going to go ahead and protect. And it looks like a Moonlight coming out of this Cresselia to make sure that it is not going anywhere this turn either. And so now we've got a substitute coming out of Solgaleo, not able to do it. Groudon protecting itself from Yveltal. Pretty much the only thing really happening there is Cresselia now back up to full health. Cresselia out here after that Electric Seed, boosting its defense with Moonlight, with Sun on the field, recovering just absolutely everything. But not a whole lot happening that turn. Burning a turn to Trick Room, which is probably in Ethan's favor. Cresselia not taking any damage from Yveltal. Groudon not taking any damage from either side of things. And unfortunately for Ethan expecting that he's going to take something like Precipice Blades or Fire Punch, something like that from Groudon, trying to get that second substitute, trying to stall out Trick Room as much as possible, figuring that he's probably not going to be able to attack before Groudon, I assume. And not able to get that second substitute off. It looks like Carl was pushing it a little bit on that timer. I don't know if he was able to get anything out. It looks like Precipice Blades is going to go ahead and go, not doing anything to Yveltal, because of course it's a ground move against a flying type. Substitute fading for Solgaleo as Precipice Blades makes contact, and then Ethan predicting correctly that Precipice Blades was coming out this turn. And now it looks like a foul play going into Groudon. Groudon going down very quickly there to that foul play because he didn't have a whole lot of HP left. Trick Room coming back here. It looks like Carl was expecting Trick Room out of Solgaleo, knowing that he had the substitute up, knowing that Press with Blades was not clicked last turn, reversing Trick Room here, but thinking that he was going to be able to set it up on a reversal. So it looks like this was actually a pretty good turn for Ethan, clearing out a Pokemon, trying to level out a little bit the Pokemon count. So now we're down 3-2 here instead of 4-2, which was a little bit more of an uphill battle. So now this is starting to turn a little bit in Ethan's favor. He's behind a substitute with Solgaleo. Obviously here behind a substitute, you wouldn't be able to take Intimidate if, let's say, Arcanine, which is not realistic because he already showed all 4 of his Pokemon. But substitute here, even though he's got, full metal body, essentially clear body on Solgaleo. Just 2 layers of not taking Intimidate here. But now we've got Yveltal out. Behind a substitute is going to be able to take at least 1 hit here from the opposing Yveltal. It seems like a little bit of a rough decision here because you've got Cresselia. It doesn't have an item, so it can't take fake out or knockoff damage. Not full knockoff damage because it doesn't have an item. And it looks like Carl, again, pushing things to the limit here on move timer. We're down to 5 seconds, and he's just going to make that decision real quick. And I don't think that's going to be too big of an issue for him coming up. Your time, it is clicking down or ticking down under 3 minutes, but it doesn't seem like that's going to be necessarily a problem here. Snarl, which would go behind the substitute because it is sound-based move from this opposing Yveltal, and now knockoff from Ethan, taking out a Choice Scarf. All right, that is surprising to me. Choice Scarf Yveltal here. I imagine that a lot of them have been running black glasses lately. And then seeing a Choice Scarf on Yveltal, that was a great protect from Ethan. Maybe he's onto something that we aren't privy to. Maybe he heard some murmurs somewhere. But a pretty nice turn here. And so now Carl's going to be able to switch out moves with his Yveltal, but Snarl still seems like it's a decent choice for him. I mean, dark moves are still boosted for both of these Dark-type Pokemon. And Cresselia is just not going to take a whole lot of damage. Just because of that, Electric Seed defense boost. I'm not really sure what either player really wants to do here. Foul Play coming out. It looks like that's going to knock that substitute straight out here. Clearing a substitute out on Ethan Solgaleo. A really nice decision, trying to clear out the Solgaleo, knowing that is one of the biggest threats on the field here. Ethan doing a pretty good chunk of damage to that Yveltal, and it looks like Ethan is prioritizing the Yveltal, and we've got the Sunsteel Strike here, going straight into that Yveltal, and it's able to clear it out. Looks like Ethan wants to save that Cresselia, knowing that it's a pretty supportive type Pokemon. Sunny Day coming out here, knowing that he's got the Moonlight there, Sunny Day, Trick Room. He's going to be able to stay on this field with Cresselia for quite a while. And Life Orb Recoil on Ethan Solgaleo means that he's kind of on a timer here. He's only got so many moves that he can click before he's going to run out of time on Solgaleo. And now that Tapu Koko is out on the field against a very low health Solgaleo and an Yveltal, which is weak to electric types, which are now boosted by Electric Terrain as well. This is going to be a rough spot for Ethan. He might have Sucker Punch, but even that would be resisted by Tapu Koko, which is unfortunate for Ethan in this position. It looks like Carl has set himself up in a pretty good late game position. This Tapu Koko is actually really great for this endgame here. I got a little bit worried. We stuttered a little. I was worried that we were going to drop the video feed again. Thankfully, we are still here. We are still around, and it looks like Carl still taking his time, making sure that he has got his decisions made as well as possible. Knockoff going to Cresselia. Super effective, doing a decent chunk of damage. I'm kind of surprised that was not a critical hit based on the amount of damage that it did. We've got Moonlight out of Cresselia, even though Knockoff did a good chunk of damage. A 3-hit KO because of that Electric Seed boosted defense, but recovering all of that HP back that was coming from Knockoff, which is really unfortunate for Ethan. Tapu Koko on Carl's side, going ahead and protecting, preventing any sort of damage. I imagine that came from Carl trying to feel out to see if there was any protect on Ethan's side. Ethan now basically one chance to do damage with this Solgaleo. And now Ethan is going to go ahead and protect this Yveltal, trying to make sure that it's going to stick around for one more turn. Tapu Koko trying to go into that Yveltal. Ethan calling it really nicely. It looks like Carl understands that no matter what, this Solgaleo is going to get one shot off. So he's targeting down the one Pokemon that he knows he has a chance to try and do damage to. Instead of targeting into that substitute with Tapu Koko, he targets into the Yveltal, which is a pretty smart, good play from both players here. Protecting that Yveltal, making sure that it's not going to take any electric super effective damage. And now we've got a one-on-one showdown here, and it might actually come down a little bit. Oh, no, it doesn't. Just a straight-up forfeit. He doesn't want to try and stall things out. Ethan going to take game one here. I figured that there was a chance that maybe, just maybe, Carl would want to try and feel things out a little bit, but he's understanding here that with the amount of damage that he was taking, that Moonlight is only going to recover for so many turns, and eventually he's going to run out of Moonlights, most likely before Ethan is going to run out of Dark-type moves to do super effective damage. Maybe trying to preserve a little bit of information. We saw the Trick Room, we saw the Moonlight, we saw Sunny Day at a Cresselia, but I don't think that we saw a fourth move yet. And so now going into game two, we saw that Carl tried to predict Solgaleo to have Trick Room, and Carl went ahead and reversed Trick Room, probably expecting that Ethan was going to set up his own Trick Room, trying to get a reverse, playing a little bit of Uno here, reverse the reverse, but not working in Carl's favor there. So Cresselia was a little bit of dead weight. It set up Trick Room, sure, but Ethan was able to stall it out and eventually just have Carl switch it back off for him. And I think that was even on the last turn of Trick Room, which it could have just been that Carl understood that Cresselia was just kind of dead weight, and if Ethan had gone for Trick Room on Solgaleo, then he would have gotten a fresh set of turns on Trick Room. Unfortunate that it didn't work out for him in that manner, but it seems like Ethan had pretty decent control there. Like I said, I thought that Carl was in a really good position with Tapu Koko, but unfortunately the last couple plays there, Carl wasn't really able to make the right decisions to close that game out. I feel like he was still in a great position, but unfortunately not able to close it out too well in his favor. A couple different decisions, and I think that game could have gone a completely different way. And I think Ethan is also aware of that. Ethan understands that, a couple different decisions and maybe it wouldn't have gone necessarily in his favor. And so he's got to make decisions to adjust his team accordingly. And it'll be nice to see how both players adjust. So let's get into game number 2, round number 4. This is win and in for these players. And again, Carl is the Kansas City area CP leader, so he has the most championship points of the Kansas City area players. And again, this is not the highest CP player at this particular tournament, as we do have Justin Burns that has invaded. Carl coming off of a top 4 finish over at Memphis just a little while ago. So he is trying to defend a little bit of his honor here and trying to pull as many CP as he possibly can. And so we see this lead out here pretty similar to last game. We've got Tapu Koko's on both sides this time, which is a little bit of a change up, but now we still have Solgaleo out here and Yveltal. And so we saw last game that Ethan brought out Crobat, set up the Tailwind, tried to put himself in a good position with Tailwind. Carl, again, pushing this move timer as low as possible, trying to make the best decisions that he's got. And Yveltal making that last decision on a split second. We'll have to see if he got that move off or if it just defaulted to the top 1. Snarl from Yveltal here, going into the protect of Solgaleo, making sure that Ethan wanting to make sure that his Solgaleo is protected, not going behind a sub this time. And it looks like Carl trying to double into that Solgaleo with a nice Snarl and, trying to hit Solgaleo with an electric move. Ethan slowing things down with his second form of speed control. He had Tailwind on Crobat, and now he's got Electro Web on Tapu Koko, doing a little bit of damage. Obviously, Electro Web is not there to do a huge chunk of damage, but it's reduced the speed, and we saw how much damage Sunseal Strike did to Carl's Tapu Koko. That was a huge amount of damage, taking that KO basically straight away. And so Yveltal here is a little bit threatened with Tapu Koko on Ethan's side. Yes, it is at -1 special attack, which we saw how much that affected the damage output on Yveltal. Again, not meant to do damage, but it should have done more damage than that. But at this point, we've got Ethan in a pretty good position. Karl making sure that he's making the best decisions that he has available, using all of his timer, almost all. Let's be honest, there were a couple seconds left there. But now we've got Cresselia for Karl coming out here, again, raising that defense from the Electric Seed. A double switch here, making sure that Yveltal and Tapu Koko aren't taking too much damage. It looks like he thinks that those are his keys to success here. Arcanine coming out here, and again, Full Metal Body does prevent the Intimidate. We were joking that he was behind a substitute last time. Ooh, Nature's Madness right into the Cresselia, trying to do a good chunk of damage. Ethan understanding that his special attack is dropped, but because Intimidate doesn't affect Solgaleo here with that Full Metal Body, can't drop his stats by outside moves. Looks like, wow, that's actually a good chunk of damage for that being a resisted move on Arcanine. Arcanine probably not full HP based on the HP stat there. Maybe not a bulky Arcanine, but damage there into Cresselia with Nature's Madness. So Ethan actually doing a good chunk of damage there. Full Metal Body, that would have been into the Tapu Koko, probably a KO. So making sure that he's preserved at least 2 Pokemon here. Cresselia is still taking a huge chunk of damage, which it should be able to Moonlight away, but I don't think Cresselia is going to be able to take too many more shots here from Ethan's Pokemon. So Arcanine and Cresselia, we're going to have to see what Karl's going to be able to do here. Looks like both players should almost have their moves locked in. Electro Web coming out to slow things down just a little bit further. We know that this Cresselia does have Trick Room, so this could benefit Karl just a little bit if he can get that Trick Room out. Extreme Speed, I thought I saw, but looks like no. Solgaleo out here trying to do a little bit of damage into Arcanine, picking that Arcanine up, and it looks like Cresselia again being left alone. Ethan understanding that Cresselia is mostly here for support. Psychic coming out, the 4th move out of Cresselia, not putting up the Trick Room. Even though he's got the speed drop, and Tapu Koko and Solgaleo looks like are built to be more offensive, not the slow bulky types on Ethan's team. But it looks like Karl opting out of Trick Room. And we're going to take a little bit of refreshing water here, and make sure that we can keep doing our little bit of commentary while Karl selects his next Pokemon. We know that he's got Tapu Koko and Yveltal in the back, and it looks like he wants to bring Yveltal. Ethan's Tapu Koko still at -1 special attack here. May not be able to pick up the KO, even though it's in electric terrain, even though it is a super effective move. If I remember correctly, we saw the Choice Scarf knocked off this Yveltal, so it is very quick, and Tapu Koko probably not able to outspeed it here. So it looks like Karl has selected his moves here. Ethan going to go ahead and protect Solgaleo, not wanting to take super effective Dark moves, boosted by Dark Aura. And that protect, nicely done. Making sure that he doesn't take any super effective damage there from this Yveltal. Electro Web coming out from Tapu Koko, kind of as expected. Cresselia still not taking a whole lot of damage, and Cresselia is going to be able to Moonlight most of this damage away. It looks like Ethan has absolutely prioritized which Pokemon he does and does not want to be worried about. And it looks like Yveltal is Ethan's biggest threat. That is what he has recognized. He's not worried about Cresselia. He knows all 4 moves that Cresselia has. And for the most part, Karl has been here going for recovery moves, going for Trick Room. And in this match, no Trick Room. Psychic was not able to do a huge amount of damage. Ethan going to go ahead and go for this Wild Charge. So even though we saw that this had Electro Web, this is potentially another physical Tapu Koko. And it looks like Ethan not able to outspeed this Yveltal even after the Electro Web. Probably expecting that he was going to be able to pick up the KO straight away with the Wild Charge. Unfortunately for Ethan, not able to pick it up, and Solgaleo is gone. So at this point now, Ethan has to worry about taking care of Carl's Tapu Koko, but Trick Room is set up. Tapu Koko was faster than Yveltal, so it looks like Yveltal will be moving first, or at least before the Tapu Koko. And Ethan's going to bring out his Yveltal of his own. And so now at this point, under Trick Room, we're in a little bit of an interesting position. It's kind of funny to think of an Yveltal. And again, I think this one was the Choice Scarf Yveltal we saw getting knocked off. So it should be locked into an attacking move here. And then Cresselia, if Ethan just continues to ignore that Cresselia, Ethan trying to do something here, just continuing to attack what is likely that Yveltal slot. And it worked out really nicely for obviously look that Yveltal slot and thinking, hey, wait a minute, that move, that slot, not going to do a whole lot of damage. And then Ethan, again, I mean, dropping that Sky Drop on the Tapu Koko with his Tapu Koko, kind of doubling into that Yveltal slot, knowing that, hey, if you switch here and Sucker Punch fails, well, that's fine. Your Tapu Koko still isn't going to be able to do anything. And the Trick Room, as Tapu Koko comes out here, Cresselia is still not able to huge amount. And it looks like Skydrop. And then we've got Knockoff coming here from Ethan's Yveltal. Not going to do a whole lot of damage with the berry on Carl's Tapu Koko. Psychic, again, not doing that much damage to Tapu Koko, which is really unfortunate for Carl. That Cresselia is just not able to help him out as much as he would have necessarily hoped. Ethan has absolutely been prioritizing the partner Pokemon to Cresselia, a decent card in Carl's position to look and say, hey, I want to switch this off the field. Ethan's absolutely recognized that. But looking at the Pokemon count, relatively, but we have to remember that Carl's is very low on HP with 8 hit points remaining. That is, and so he's gonna try and switch, maybe eat another Skydrop and not take it because of his flying type Pokemon. Ethan going ahead and protecting to preserve stealing potential. Nature's Madness going into Yveltal here, taking it down to 3 whole hit points. And unfortunately for Ethan, it means that Yveltal is still around. Might have been able to pick up the KO. But again, that's a decent switch, ending what position that Carl is in here. So Carl bringing the Yveltal, Nature's Madness previously. All right, I got to take a risk here. I got to preserve this Tapu Koko a little bit. Make sure that it's going to do a little bit of damage. And Tapu Koko on Ethan's side is HP. And so Carl has to weigh his options very carefully here. He's running low on HP as well. This Yveltal is basically in Sucker Punch range. He's got to decide whether he wants to attack or switch. And there goes that Sucker Punch. Yveltal on Carl's side is going down. Not going to be able to do a whole lot. And Wild Charge coming out into this Cresselia, not doing a whole lot. Again, boosted by this electric seed. And then it looks like Tapu Koko is going to go down to, unfortunately, Cresselia, which got to pick up its own KO here. So, as much as I've been making fun of Cresselia for being a little bit of dead weight, it looks like Cresselia is in it to win it. And so Ethan revealing his last Pokemon here, Kartana, against Tapu Koko and Cresselia. Now Ethan still has to worry about Yveltal here against a Tapu Koko in electric terrain. I imagine that we've only got a turn or two left, so he might be able to stall out the electric terrain and try and keep his Yveltal around. And then Kartana here might be able to Smart Strike or Leaf Blade into this Tapu Koko and pick up the KO, since Tapu Koko is not known for being very bulky. But a lot of decisions that need to be made here. Tapu Koko on Carl's side is going to go ahead and protect, understanding that Ethan has been absolutely targeting Cresselia's partner. And then Ethan coming in here with the protect on his Yveltal, trying to pick up the KO on Tapu Koko just straight out the gate. And now Carl's over here, Moonlight, I got this, buddy. Unfortunately, Cresselia, if it ends up in a one-on-one against Yveltal, it's not going to be able to do any damage to Yveltal. As we've seen, it only has one attacking move, and it is a Psychic type attack. And Dark types are, unfortunately, for Carl, immune to Psychic type attacks. So at this point, it's kind of a rough spot. While Ethan has full health Pokemon, Ethan has waited out the electric terrain, and it looks like his Yveltal is able to survive outside of electric terrain to that Wild Charge on Tapu Koko. And a Leaf Blade going into Tapu Koko is going to be able to clear it out. That means that we're going to see a Beast Boost out of that Kartana. And now it's a 2-on-1, a 1-on-1 with Cresselia against Yveltal. And I imagine that we're probably going to see a forfeit here. And it looks like